Okay, here we are again for the next part of this process. You may have noticed that I did not end up adding these lace pockets onto the inside cover. Prior to sewing it, I just decided that it was way too bulky and I'm going to glue them in, or I may not. I'm just so thrilled with the way that the inside cover looks. I would then be hiding that beautiful pattern of the silk. So I might do one, we'll see. So here's my stitching. What you can see is I have done down each side of the spine, both sides, and then just all the way around. And with this particular journal cover, I ended up going in more like a almost 1/4 of an inch, because what happened was I sewed in the cover that I had glued onto the velvet, and when I stitched on the outside, it just puckered all along the edges and I wasn't happy. So I removed it painstakingly. I did the unthinkable and picked every stitch off and started over again, and I'm thrilled with the results. It was worth it. So here's a close-up, if you can see the stitching and the corners, and I'm quite pleased. So I am going to continue, and I don't know how much of the actual process you want to see, but I will start and we'll go from there and see how it goes. The next thing I do is I'm going to decide the closure, which will be the silk ties, the sari silk ties that match the margarita velvet color I chose. And so I'm going to need some grommets or eyelets in here. And I buy these little ones at Michael's in their Sewing Notions Center supply area. And so I'm going to just show you how to do that. I know everyone does it, so I'm not the first one doing it for darn sure, but I'll just show you how I do it. So I measure with my Tim Holtz ruler. It's got that 0 marker, so I know each side of the center so that it's going to be right bang on. And then I actually do use a red felt pen for the dot, the center of the dot where I want to punch. And I think I'm going to go just outside of the stitching, the machine stitching here, which is right there. So dot. And then the other side the same. So we've got 2 marks. And then I take my We Are Memory Keepers, what are these called? A chopper? I don't know what it is. Anyhow, can't think of it right now. My mind's blank. And I just punch. Oops, it's not gonna get in there. Right through the velvet. All the way through. Sometimes it gets caught on the fabric, and then I just snip that a little. Just carefully, of course. And then clean this out. Want to be really careful there, but I also don't want the bulk in the way of the eyelet. And then the flat side, smooth side to the outside. Then I switch and use the little pointy piece. Have it sitting on the top. And punch. Boom. Perfect. See, if you leave too many threads, they're going to show through. So I'll just do that when you're snipping it. Cut it carefully. And the other side. squeeze. Boom. Perfect. I love it. And I chose to leave the salvage edge on the front inside flap this time with this inside cover, just because I like the smoothness and I don't want the most amount of fraying to happen there. It's going to happen all around because it's raw silk, but that's fine. I glued it and stitched it as best as I could. All right, so that is our cover. And then the next step I would do once I've got my signatures sewn in is my embellishments. This is the lace panel that I might put down at the bottom this time. And then I've already pre-sewn the image, one of the Boho Beauties green. Actually, I think this was in the blue kit, but I wanted it for the green because it has green in it, and it's just such a beautiful contrast. Plus, I like the image of the girl. I thought she was just absolutely beautiful. So I put that on cardstock, and then muslin, and then this vintage lace. And sometimes I use just cardstock. Sometimes I use the leftover, you know, bits that you cut off of the Craft X. And then I would probably place this image first, like so. Add the velvet right there. That I would glue on, probably cover the stitching. And then apply the panel here. Just glue that all on. And then my little title that says Boho Beauties Green, probably right there. And then some of Sheila's gorgeous green dangly beads, right about there. So that would be my cover with the sari silk ribbons tied through the side. And I will do a flip through of the video when I'm finished the sewing in the signatures into the journal. So I'm going to start now with how I punch the holes into the cover and the signatures. So I make my spine, and because of this is the third journal in this series, but only the second one of this exact page height, I'm just going to use a template that I've made. And what I do is I just measure it all out where I want the signatures and put a little hole in each one. And then I open out my cover and find exactly where this is going to sit in the center. Actually, I usually measure that with my ruler too to find the exact center of town. And it's 2 1/4 inches, so yeah, sometimes I mark it with a pencil, what I just might do this time. So that's going to be it. It's virtually going to disappear once I stitch in the pages. And then down here, it's right where this part of the print is. And then I just line up the center with that. Make sure I've got the right direction going because this is the top of my spine. You always want to sew your signatures in to match the punched holes into your cover or your little hoop. Okay, that's the center there. And then I just use my little clamps. Put one there and one here. Make sure I'm in the center, and that looks good. I'm going to just pull it up a little tiny bit here. Measure twice, cut once. All right. And then I take my little block. It's just a piece of super thick foam that I got. And you can see how many journals I've made by how many holes I've punched in there. And then I just put this on here and use this. You can use an awl, whatever you like. This works great for me. Yep, I'm liking it. So I start with one side in the middle here and just punch right through. Straight up and down. Don't go at an angle. Goes through the velvet and the silk and the craft X like butter. This I'm using a 5-hole pamphlet stitch because I'm going to sew buttons on the cover as well. And then just take it off. And from the outside you can see where the holes are. And I'm liking it. Looks good. All right. So the next step I do is actually punch the holes into my signatures. What I do is I start with the back, the furthest signature from the front cover. So that's going to be this one. This one I'm going to have as my first signature. So I learned a lot of this by watching many tutorials, and I've discovered what worked best for me, and that's what I run with. One of the first people that I actually really learned a lot from was Cheryl from Deli Girl Creations, and she did a few craft with me's, and I just found them amazing. They were very helpful. A lot of things I've learned I just have implemented and used for every journal that I do. So one of the things I do is remove all the ephemera first out of the pages before stitching them into the cover. And what I do is I take them out and then just start piling them like this. And then for each page, you alternate it. And just keep doing this until they're all out. And then when you go to put them back in the journal, once it's all stitched in, you start from the top and go from the front of the book. So that to me made the most sense, and I just find it's great. So just carry on doing that while you watch. You can fast forward if you like. Won't offend me. And try and keep them straight so that they don't slide around too much. Love this. Alrighty, so then we have an empty signature, which is much thinner, of course. And then what I do is I just start in the very middle, and with my hands very firm, not wanting to let the paper shift too much, I just start, oopsie, that got forgotten. Keep the edges straight and then clasp them with your hands like this so that you're got a firm grip on all of them and that your edges are even. Most importantly, I would keep the bottom edges even because you want that to look nice when you're, standing your book upright. You don't want the bottom to be helter-skelter too much. Or you can do whatever you want, of course. These images I had commercially printed because I knew I was doing a volume of doing 3 journals, and I wanted the back pages of the images lined so they're two-sided. It was just a whole lot easier for me to get them commercially printed, which is easy, not so cheap, but sometimes it's just better to do that than wasting a whole pile of paper and ink trying to figure it out yourself. All right, getting close to the bottom of the pile. And then I've got a good grip on all of it. What I want to make sure is that this is even down here in the corners, because otherwise your pages are going to go askew. And I do like that. So then I'll bring out my clamps again and just clamp the pages. And that's what helps me keep my pages straight while I'm sewing the signatures in, as it can get pretty frustrating if they start gnarling up. So that's that. And I'm happy with the way they're sitting. So then I take out my little block again for punching. Make sure this is the top and the top of my template spine. So this is exactly the height of the pages. I'm starting with the back signature first. And you can certainly use your clamps to clamp the template on as well. And then what you want to make sure is you're going straight down through that hole into your book or your foam or whatever you're using, and that it goes through the center of each page. I'll show you when I'm done here. And if you don't get it quite right, it's not the end of the world, but it just helps if all your pages are even. That's what I mean, right in the center of all the pages. So there you go. And then the fun begins with sewing in the signatures, which there are a lot of videos on. So this is just the way I do it. And I will come back and do a walkthrough or flip through when I have pulled all the pages together, put the ephemera back in, and final embellishments. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been helpful. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.